Moment. How to, I'm looking how to add this, my PowerPoint.
Okay, was it open already?
It's okay. It's okay now.
No, we can't see it.
You can't see it.
Was the PowerPoint already open when you wanted to share, or did you share and then go and open your PowerPoint?
Then I open a PowerPoint.
Okay. So just keep your PowerPoint open and stop sharing, and then share again.
Okay. Now it's open and
we still can't see it.
Can't see it. Moment.
Yeah. I see you are a co-host. You have been made a co-host.
Moment.
Did you?
Moment. Now I go to PowerPoint. I edit. You can't see it.
No.
No.
So
no,
just stop sharing completely. Just go stop share in Zoom.
In Zoom. Moment.
Yeah, in Zoom, go to stop share.
Stop share. Okay.
Yeah. Then minimize, but don't close Zoom.
Okay.
And make certain that your PowerPoint slide that you want is open as you would like us to see it.
Moment. Again, you don't see it.
No, because you stopped share. You've got to share again.
Share screen. Yes. And now?
There we go. Yes, we've got it. Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
Hallelujah, brother. Hallelujah, brother.
Good afternoon, everybody. And good afternoon, Professor Cormith, and welcome again to one of our Wednesday afternoon Doctoral Academy talks. I think many of you have heard Professor Cormith talk before. He puts an incredible amount of preparation into his talks and goes really deep into the topics that he talks about. And I've asked him to talk about ethics. And I've also asked him to talk about ethics as somebody who's been away from UKZN for a couple of years. So he talks purely about ethics and not about UKZN ethics. I could have got somebody from BREC, but they'd have focused on what happens in BREC. So Prof. Cormith is going to be giving us a really in-depth look at ethics in general in our clinical research. He and I worked together many years ago. The two of us just about did every lecture there was in the genetics department at the time. And we got to know each other very well at that time, and we stayed in touch, and we still bounce things off each other. We still share intellectually. So again, thank you so much, Emil, for agreeing to do this talk. Just a warning, I'm away on a writing retreat and I could drop internet at any point, but everything so far has been good. So far, so good. So I'm going to hand over to you. Thank you very much again.
Okay. Thank you, Colin, for the generous introduction myself. And I will start for today some presentation. Dear colleagues, when I look on these topics, common problems seen in ethics application, I made the decision that I will divide it in two parts. First part maybe to justify reasons why most pieces of research require ethical clearance. Yeah, and the second part, problems we can face after we submit a research proposal or apply for a research grant, and it must go via ethical committee. Yeah, I start with first question. Why does research need ethical approval? The main reason why most pieces of research require ethical clearance is to firstly ensure the research is conducted in a responsible and ethically accountable way. Secondly,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're not,
yes.
Sorry, Emil, to interrupt,
yes.
We're not seeing you move your slides. We're still seeing your first slide.
Yes, I just do introduction and then I move. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Then just introduction. Then secondly, minimize the risk of harm to humans and animals. And thirdly, ensure that the research leads to beneficial outcomes. Then is a second question. Why is ethical issue important in research? Yeah. Why? Because governs the standards of conduct for scientific research. Because we have to adhere to ethical principles in order to protect dignity, rights, welfare of researcher and research participant. Next question. When should I apply for ethical approval? Please keep in your mind that you can't start any research activity before you obtain a research approval. Yeah, before you receive approval from ethical committee. You can't start research, you can start data collection, you can start activity with research participants. What is important, yeah, that this ethical approval protect research participant against some harm, against risk that must be considered. What are the ethical issues in research? I put it in 7 points. Yeah. These principles are that participation must be voluntary, that there must be informed consent, there must be anonymity, must be confidentiality, openness. Then you must evaluate potential harm, special human subject protection, the same animal protection, and also how you are able to communicate your result. Most ethical codes cover the following areas. Firstly, I put on the first position honesty and integrity. Yeah? So it means that your report always must be in a line of research honestly, and the same applies to your method. Why you did this method, why you choose this method, your data, your results, and also you must disclose whether you have previously published any of it. Yeah? So it means even any data, including extrapolating for some of your results, must be mentioned, the reader of your research proposal must do know about it. Yeah. And if I may advise you, it's better to stand on the earth. Don't exaggerate your findings. Yeah. And usually you are not working alone. In some part of your work, you cooperate with another researcher in your laboratories or in your institution, in another institution. And please always keep agreements with those colleagues and act sincerely. The next important point is objectivity. Yeah. Avoid bias in any aspect of your research. It means design, analysis of data, interpretation, also peer review. Yeah. What I recommend from my experience, I recommend if you if your reviewer is someone you don't know personally, for instance, yeah, if you somebody you are not working with, yeah, so it means that this evaluation for this person will be more valuable for you, because some of researcher will be not maybe gentle to you by evaluation, but doesn't matter, opposite, it help you because it can improve your research proposal, your project, yeah. And please be aware that in today's extremely difficult economic situation, when even in research, dog eats dog, in the fight for new grants or for some donors, disclose please personal or financial interest. You can be sure that if you apply for some grant and there will be people from another institution, sometimes this fight is not gentle. Yeah? If they find minimum opportunity to attack you, to put in question your intention, they will do it. Yeah? So please disclose any personal and also any financial interest. Then please be careful. Avoid stupid mistakes. Yeah? Please review your work carefully, critically, and ensure that your results are credible. If you have doubt, immediately compare. It's not a problem today. Bioinformatics is on a very high level. You can contact some bioinformatics, for instance, and you can check if your results are credible. Yeah? And what is very important, keep full record of your research. Yeah? Then is another very interesting part of your activities, for instance, in ethical area. Somebody sometimes can ask you to be a peer reviewer. And please take it seriously. It is not easy task. From my personal experience, I need some time to do this job effectively and fully. Usually, I don't know what is your calling experience, but usually ask me about 3 weeks to submit peer review assessment. Yeah, and please, if somebody asks you, do it carefully and do it effectively. Another problem is openness. Yeah, share your data and the results. Yeah, so it means it is not only for your development, your findings during this research work, but it helps move knowledge and further and create a new advance in science. And please be also open to criticism and new ideas. Yeah, don't close your area to criticism or to new ideas. All the time, try to be, even if you run your proposal, if you have agreement from ethical committee, if you start your research work, all the time control what is new. Yeah? Especially in molecular biology, in clinical areas, molecular medicine, and so on. Daily, I guarantee you, daily are new and new information. You can restrict this information to just to area of your interest, but nevertheless, please be up to date with new ideas. One of the point which sometimes is abused today and then can create a problem in ethical committee process is intellectual property. Yeah? So it means avoid any attack from other side. Please ask always for permission. Doesn't cost you nothing. Today is email, contact is very fast, very easy. So it means always ask using other people tools or methods, or also unpublished data or results. Yeah. Please avoid plagiarism. Yeah. So it means please respect copyrights and patents. Yeah. Respect intellectual property. Why I am talking about it? Because as a reviewer in some peer review journals, yeah, I met in maybe last 2-3 years with not good culture, bracket, yeah, culture, that some researcher in information about their research or about previous research on this particular field deliberately hide some important information publication. Yeah? And to my surprise, it is often on the level of ethnicity. I must be very critical to Chinese colleague, for instance, who just they have a tend only to put in references only work on what was published from Chinese institution, and sidelined very important information from another part of the world. Yeah. As I mentioned, most ethical codes cover the following areas. It is confidentiality, responsible publication, and legality. Yeah. So it means if somebody provides you in confidence, you must respect it. Yeah. You should publish to advance to state of research and knowledge, and not just to advance your career. Yeah. Please publish with the aim to advance knowledge. Yeah. And legality, always be aware of regulations. This regulation could be on the level of institution. It can be on the level of government. But if you are doing some research with some overseas colleagues, for instance, not only South African institution, also be aware of laws and regulation in particular area. In general, most ethical codes cover animal care and human subject protection. Yeah? Here is no different between these two areas. Yeah, you should always respect. You have some respect for animals you are using, and ensure that they are properly cared for these animals. The same is in human subject protection. Yeah, so it means there is another problem which sometimes we are facing with in our research, that we should, for instance, we need extend some investigation, or during our research we receive a new information we can use in our research. But always please don't expose people to more tests than are strictly necessary. Yeah? Because you should always respect human rights, yeah, including rights for privacy and autonomy. Yeah? What I must say is that absolutely, as long as there is a human beings or animals involved in experiments, you must submit your research proposal to ethics and research committee for approval. Yeah? Good research should be well adjusted, well planned, appropriately designed and ethically approved. What it means that you must communicate clearly, ensure that your application is self-explanatory and self-sufficient. Use the guidelines available to help you. Ensure that your application package is complete. Yeah? Label your documents. And I am asking you, always place yourself in the role of a participant. Yeah? And then we can move to problems. Yeah? This is just introduction, what we must respect before we submit to the research committee our proposal. And then I just choose 10 problems that can delay review of an ethics application, and maybe to discuss some solution. I divide it in 2 stages. Stage 1 is when application completeness problem is a problem with application as a whole, and then stage 2 when ethics review feedback problem. In stage 1, we can face approximately 5 important points. That either objection from committee is that there is a missing supporting documentation, vague description of objectives and processes. Yeah? Then you are using just generic information in consent letter. There are some term confusion, or there is an inconsistent and inaccurate information. If we move to first one, missing support, what everything could happen by our submission, that missing is recruitment material. Then missing is SOPs. What is SOPs? You know it, standard operating procedure. Yeah, standard operating procedure are describing activities necessary to complete tasks in accordance with either institutional regulation and law and or government requirement. Yeah. Then you can lose some appendices. Maybe it's problem with feedback letter. Then it's problem with information consent letter. Yeah. Then maybe you didn't supply a committee with proof of scientific merit, special with regard to risk, or missing signature. Yeah. Why it may occur? Yeah. Why? Yeah. Maybe you as a presenter, there is a lack of awareness of which pieces of supporting documentation should be included depending on the type of research being conducted. Or there can be on your side perception that signatures are not important. Yeah. I recommend that if it happens, always refer to supporting document section for the most common documents to include it with an application. Be aware that signatures are important since they acknowledge the person has read the protocol. Yeah. Signatures also bind the signatories to execute the protocol as approved. In the event that a challenge or complaint is received by a participant, a researcher's first line of defense would be to show that she or he followed a protocol as approved. Yeah? This is solution, how to protect yourself. The second is vague description of objectives and processes. Yeah? Again, why it might occur. Maybe that in your perception that a researcher can always submit a modification at a later date to refine the application. Yeah? Or perception that researchers have a sense the process is tested and straightforward, and therefore reviewers should not require this information or do not trust the researcher. Yeah? What is necessary, what must be done necessary from your side? Ensure that the statement of objectives describes research as an outcome and the contribution of the research is clearly defined. Give clear and explicit detail about process of recruitment and every interaction researchers anticipate having with participant, even though it may be minimal risk research. Participants have a right to know how the use of their time is making a contribution. Be aware that wasting participants' time on data gathering activities, which will not answer the research question posed, is unethical. The same, some people in this review committee are very, very careful, and they are going to detail, and therefore cutting and pasting from a grant proposal may not be the best way to communicate the study objectives to members of the ethics reviewers. And the last one, I recommend avoid the use of academic jargon and acronyms in information consent letters. Next problem could be generic information in consent letter. Yeah, why it may occur that just you submit a generic information. Maybe there is a perception that consent letters are legalistic and formulaic, and that no one reads them anyway. Yeah, so you think, okay, doesn't matter, nobody will read it. Yeah, or this, the consent letters are primarily written to protect the institution from lawsuits. Yeah, your objective is to ensure consent is a process and that you use the consent letter contents and its layout to make it the research as understandable as possible. Yeah? They must understand what you, with regards pictures or diagrams, yeah, must be good. Everything in order. Yeah, this avoid some generic formulation. Term confusion. Yeah. This is you must ensure the characterization of the data being collected is correct and the statutory regulation are met. Yeah. Consider developing a data sharing agreement if the data will be received from or sent outside your institution or shared with multiple parties. Yeah. Failing to explain how shared data will be secured and used by others, it is quite important information. Yeah. Then the last one, with regard application completeness problem, yeah, inconsistent and inaccurate information. Why it happened? You know, many times I saw it by my colleagues, they underestimate the role of this different review committee and just put to write a proposal or information for ethics committee to students or research assistant complete the ethics application. It is a big mistake. Please, ethics application do yourself. Never transfer to your research assistant or some students. They maybe want to help you. Yeah? You must ensure that place yourself in the position of the participant. Review your information consent letter to assess whether you would have enough information to decide about participation and understand if you are eligible to participate. Yeah, so it means this is really don't underestimate if you must complete this complete the ethics application. Then we are moving to stage 2. How it is with feedback problem from ethics committee. Yeah, they can be, again, I put in 5 points. It can be failure to fully disclose magnitude and probability of risk. Yeah, then failure to consider social and economic vulnerability, failure to consider undue influence, then secure gatekeeper pre-approval, and failure to consider a need to re-consent. Failure to disclose magnitude and probability of risk. Yeah, what is very important? Researchers need to ensure appropriate risk-benefit balance by describing all possible risk. Ensure both the magnitude of occurrence and probability of harm must be fully described. Participants need enough information to be able to assess the risk and the potential benefits. For example, a risk may have a significant magnitude if it occurs, but a very low probability of occurring. If only the magnitude is described, the benefits may not be perceived to outweigh the risk. Therefore, ensure you have not overstated the risk to cover yourself, as this may not only be negatively it can be negatively impact on recruitment, but may cause the ethics reviewers to question whether the risk statement is realistic. Yeah? Ensure you have not overstated the benefits on other side, yeah, to participant or society. So avoid both extremes, overstated the risk and overstated the benefits. Then another problem, which is coming from review committee, failure to consider the social and economic vulnerability of participants. Yeah? Please always consider risk and vulnerability from the participant perspective. By reading the application and information and consent letter is as though you are a participant. Yeah, speak to possible participants about circumstances they may be facing, which may affect their participation. Failure to consider any specific and any potential undue influence you may have over participant. Yeah, this another problem. Yeah? Use, if I may recommend, yeah, use a third party to conduct the recruiting and consent process, ensure recruitment happens in a neutral environment, or if there is a potential conflict of interest, that recruitment is conducted by a neutral person. Yeah, consult the guideline on research in maybe with another participant or another researcher before are you doing this design of particular project. Yeah. Failure to obtain pre-approval. Yeah. What can happen? A protocol can be ethically acceptable, but a gatekeeper, it can be some CEO, corporate administration, board of directors, different committees, also school boards, may not wish to be involved in or grant access to potential participants for a variety of reasons. For instance, use of resources, confidentiality concern, lack of alignment with own value or strategic plan of particular company, if you have a donor behind you. Wherever possible, obtain details on what you have done or are to seek institutional approval from gatekeepers. Yeah? Before you submit any ethics application. So you can mention this in recruitment section. And then the last one, what I see, failure to include a plan to consent participant when there is a likelihood of new information emerging. Yeah. What is important, keep in your mind that consent is an ongoing process, particularly with clinical or multi-site research. If new information arise during the conduct of the research, which may have materially affected the decision to provide consent or participant assessment of the risk-benefit ratio, they need to be provided with an opportunity to consider this new information and confirm their decision to continue on participation. What are the most common reasons for return of ethic submissions? On first place are stupid, sometimes very stupid administrative errors. They are the most common sources. Yeah, yeah. It's, as I mentioned on the beginning, missing documents, you know, recruitment materials, data collection tools. Yeah. Second most administrative error, yeah, typographical or grammatical errors. Yeah. And the most frequent error was a missing or incorrect footer. Another common error is related to inconsistent information between different documents. Yeah, you submitted. In addition to research ethics approval, what else may researcher need to consider? You must consider risk assessment. It means health and safety. Also, sometimes can stuck your proposal in committee because of travel insurance. Yeah. Then be aware of local ethical approval if research is taking place outside Republic of South Africa. So often there is not written permission from organization in which the research is being carried out. And often is missing approval from your director of studies. In general, if we're looking to these 5 maybe problems, then it can be problem, but I didn't put here, with proformas. Yeah, there are proformas for information sheets and consent forms. They are filled in PDF, for instance. Then it's a problem, could be, I mentioned this, covering this risk, but ownership data can be a problem. Yeah. Study carefully university policies, because university policies govern response to this problem. Another problem I didn't mention, it came to my mind, is storage and disposal of the information. Yeah? If I remember well, in majority of institutions, there is a mandatory 5-year period for storage of data. Longer storage is not required. Yeah? Articulate how the data will be stored in a secure manner. Yeah? And the last one, even after submission to ethics committee, I recommend communicate with human ethics officer. That's everything from my side. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for a truly in-depth look at what we should be looking at with our ethics applications. I'm sorry, I got a very bright sunshine behind me. I particularly like your last comment, and it's so important, is to keep in contact with the ethics committee. So many people say, oh, ethics didn't come back to me. Ethics takes a long time. And when we check and have a look, there was a problem from the submitters side, not necessarily from the ethics side. In fact, when they did a proper study in BRIC, they found that where there were delays, it was usually with the submitter. So if things are taking a long time, maybe the error is with you. So just check quickly, just a friendly phone call or a friendly email, say, I submitted, what is the problem? And they can say, oh, we haven't seen it. Maybe you didn't press a particular button on the ethics application or something. So keep in contact with the ethics committee. Yeah. Are there any other questions or comments about your ethics, any issues you had with ethics applications?
Colin, if I may just comment your thought. What is very important, that especially if you are working on the field of human or animal research, you can't avoid ethics committee. You'll be aware that, as you mentioned, sometimes this process in ethics committee is quite long. Therefore, I recommend to be in contact, in gentle contact with officer of ethics committee. Sometimes they forgot something, sometimes they put before your proposal another proposal, and so on. And really, I recommend to very carefully complete your submission, because you see, then in any institution today, university institution, is some kind of competition of how many publications you are able to produce, and is then compare faculty of law, humanities with faculty of science or health science faculty, and it is a huge difference. If I am in faculty of law and so on, or humanities, I can produce something without this problem with ethics committee. And sometimes this competitiveness within these faculties push you to do in hurry. and result is opposite. Yeah, if you in a hurry, if you are not careful enough with all documents, opposite, you will stuck. You will be frustrated. Yeah, maybe you will then from this frustration going to some conflict with ethics committee, which is a worse scenario. Yeah? And then it is disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And going back to your other point, I'm a member of our ethics committee, BREAK. And on reflection, as you were talking, I was thinking about those applications that I send away after one go. That's to say, this is perfect. They generally come from honors students, because honors students are going through a course where there is a lot of detail and thoroughness. And I think that's the big issue, is your ethics application must be thorough and it must be detailed. And I tell you, another thing that is annoying is if I open a protocol and it's full of spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes, I feel disrespected. I might be arrogant here, but I feel if the student did not take the trouble to run their work through a spell checker or a grammar checker before submitting it to ethics, that's disrespectful. So that might seem petty, but it's the detail. If you are going to, if you're not even going to look at your spelling, then you're not looking at the detail of your research. I don't know how you feel about that, Emil.
Yes, I put back these slides. Yeah, that administrative errors, which include, for instance, these grammatical errors, yeah, is most common and can have a severe consequences for this researcher who submit this research proposal. It is type of arrogance.
Yeah.
And then the committee sometimes evaluated not in positive term, and they are right.
Yeah, it's not a reflection on your ability to spell. It's a reflection on your ability to give attention to detail, which when you are looking at humans, participants, is very important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Despite that it is administrative, yeah, it creates some picture about you, how you are able to be accurate, how you are able to precise to coming to the problem, how you are able to prepare good products, even in your research.
Yeah. And with the current rig system that we have at UKZN, everything is smoothed out a lot. I mean, as a reviewer, I've been a reviewer there for several years. Things went from a paper-based system where I used to get a pack of paper this thick every month with the work that I had to go through. But now we have a system where I just get an email that I click on and I go through to the directly to that student or researcher's page to look at the ethics. And the one thing that impresses me is when I see people have taken the trouble to say not applicable in certain of those pages, because the pages that have been designed on the rig system are generic. So not everything is applicable, but if the researcher has gone to the trouble of saying, this is not applicable for my study, just in stroke A, I think they respect the system and they complete everything. And that to me is a sign of a good application. And invariably, when I've seen somebody on the first page having filled in every single one of the spaces that needs to be filled in, I will find a protocol that I can pass first go. That's invariably the case. When I see the first and second page, hardly anything is filled in, I think to myself, okay, it's not appropriate for the study, but there are then holes in the protocol anyway. So it's about thoroughness. Yeah, respecting the system. Yeah. I also think that in general, if you want to be a researcher, you've got to have ethics as part of your being. It's got to be part of your bone marrow. You've got to think ethically and you've got to have integrity all the time. And then it'll come through in your work. There's nobody who can be ethical today. I mean, if you think back to those ghastly experiments in the 20th century, I'm thinking about Tuskegee, I'm thinking about the Second World War, the concentration camps. Those people had no integrity. They had no ethics. Those are terrible things that happened. And that had nothing to do with filling out an ethics form. So ethics is so much more than an ethics application with spaces to fill in. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Another problem, as I mentioned, Colleen, is incomplete reference list. Yeah, as I mentioned, I have some problems as a reviewer with Chinese researcher, and I wrote publisher. If this in this reference list will be not mentioned, those researchers, they are absolutely ignore, bypass, I don't recommend to publish. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they really did it. Yeah. I made a decision to stop them. Yeah. It is unethical. Yeah. To hide some important information and to transfer it to, for instance, to just colleague from another institution from our country. Yeah. Yeah. And don't mention the primary source of some methods or some ideas. This is another unethical behavior, unfortunately quite common today.
Yeah, yeah. What about, I'm going to be, because you've still got 5 minutes here, I'm going to be a bit of a devil's advocate. What do you do as an ethical scientist when you notice unethical work happening around you? I think you've kind of broached the topic now by reviewing articles and picking up ethical issues and reviewing articles. But what if you're sitting in a lab and you notice unethical practices? What do you do? What do you think is the right thing to do? And I'd like to comment from the floor as well as from Prof. Cormuth.
From my side, it's quite clear. I immediately resolute against such behavior. No, I can't accept it. Yeah, because it is then like if you spread some wheat on a nice meadow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you tolerate it, then it will spread. It is like bushfire. Yeah. So I will act without compromise against such people. Really, really, I will be not gentle. I will be not gentle. Maybe I am from old school, yeah, but I am quite tolerant person, but never in research where somebody is cheating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's to me now where I am, it's easy for me to back you up all the way on that and say it's easy to know what the right thing is to do. But very often there are positions of authority that make it very difficult for junior researchers to stand up against perceived ethical issues. And then for that, there are whistleblower types of access. So you have to speak out. You just have to find a way of speaking out. Yeah.
Yes, Colin, this pressure to produce publication is enormous, you know, and I think something must change, because you can see you have some authors, there are tens of publications, with very low value. Yeah, and then you have another author which publish 2 times per year, maximum 3 times, but each publication is diamond. Yeah, how to do some linkage equilibrium between publication quality and publication quantity. I don't know. This is a problem that this institution are pushed. How many publications you have got? Yeah. And then you have a different, you can see now on internet a different journals. There are predatory journals.
Yes.
Yeah, how to deal with those journals? Yeah, it is a huge temptation to publish there because there is not problem with some critics. Yeah, just send it to them and they publish it.
Yeah,
in majority. Yeah. This really, I don't know how to deal with this problem, which really
there's also got to do with personal integrity. I mean, some people can say, if you've sent an article to a journal and it's gone through peer review and it gets published, then that's fine. But they might not know how you have salami sliced your data.
Yeah.
And if you're salami slicing your data, you are acting with very little scientific integrity. And I'm not talking about getting several publications out of a single research question. There might be several research questions, sub-questions that you're answering that can be different papers. But I'm talking literally about using the same data set for very similar papers in different journals. And that's personal integrity and personal ethics that's coming up there.
Another problem is also, by publications that from some institution, if they submit some paper for publication, they don't scrutinize this properly. If it's coming from National Institute of Health, then publish it immediately. You remember about 15 years ago was a huge problem with top publisher in oncogenetics from National Institute of Health, and they found out that this guy does just turn electrophoresis picture in different position, and it was the same electrophoresis which rotated, and it was those publications were most valuable publication at this time before this bubble burst. Because it was from National Institute of Health, there was not critical evaluation. There's another problem.
And peers, and probably a person of authority, so peers would not challenge that.
Yes, because supervisor of particular person was a director of a National Institute of Health. And he was not aware
when authority comes into it. Sadly, we have people in authority that don't necessarily have personal ethics.
What his doctorand is doing, and it was one of the most cited publication in the world.
There are two comments that have come up in the chat, and I'm glad Dushima brought this up. She said she would intervene. So that is being a good researcher. You will intervene. And she intervened when somebody said they took a shortcut that might have had lower integrity or no integrity, and he had to push because time was not on his side. And then Sandra also said, unfortunately, that's the pattern now. And that is the problem. But just to wrap this up, because we are now at 4:30, you have got to decide with your own conscience if you are doing research ethically. Are you doing it for the patient? Would you have your parents or your children on that research study in every single way? Is the purpose of your research, of your adding to the evidence base of medicine, humanitarian, or is it profit-based? And by profit, I mean, is it just to get a degree? Is it just to get a publication? Is it just to get funding? And I think that's what research ethics and research integrity is all about, is the purpose of why you are doing research. Emile, I'm going to give you closing comments.
Well, I have no more. I think we completely exhausted
Yes, I
our
think
topics. Yeah, I don't know if another colleagues they have more some more comments. Yeah, but I hope that at least you were able to something positive take for our discussion and our presentation today.
Yes, thank you very much. For people who are still here, they obviously are taking a positive message home. Thanks everybody for attending. Thanks Professor Cormuth for taking the time to prepare this really in-depth lecture for us. And we'll see you all next week, same time, same place. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.